with Dr. Cade Brumley, our state's superintendent of education. Dr. Brumley, how are you, sir?
Hey, man. Good morning. Hope you're doing well.
I am doing very well this morning. Let's see, April 2nd, which means we are less than 2 months away from the close of the school year. I know it's not. I know it's not time to start, ripping up notebooks just yet. But I would imagine for some third graders, it might be crunch time.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say April 2nd isn't that Liberation Day, and I was going to come with, what's liberating is a high quality education.
But
you didn't
I feel
set me
bad
up.
now. I could have had that one on the tee for you. I apologize.
Well, it is true. It is true. Anyway, no. So this year is the first year that the third grade retention law goes into effect. So for, in my opinion, too long, we promoted third graders on past third grade that really weren't academically prepared for success in fourth grade and beyond. So a few years back, legislation passed, and it basically said that if third graders can't exhibit some minimum levels of proficiency in reading, they could not advance into the fourth grade. And so that kind of ends this idea of social promotion that's been in place for a long time. And so it'll go into effect with this year's third graders. Now, the reason I feel confident that this is the right thing to do is because over the last several years, we have really invested our time and energy into policy and actions to improve elementary reading scores. And we've led the country for 2 consecutive cycles of the nation's report card on literacy. So I think that these elementary students, as they've matriculated from kindergarten on through third, have had really good opportunities. And we just want to make sure that kids are prepared to move into fourth grade. So this year's third graders will be the first group of students that if they cannot show that minimum proficiency, they would not be allowed to move into the fourth grade.
Do we have any kind of like preliminary numbers that can, kind of tip your office off, tip off your office as to whether or not there's going to be a huge number of third graders that don't meet the standard?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question, and I think it's one we've been thoughtful about over the last few years. So we were able to pass legislation that called for 3 reading screeners a year for elementary students. So these are like 5-minute quick hits. They get them 3 times a year, and it tells the teacher in a very responsive way, like what deficits or strengths the child has, very specifically with reading. And then we've communicated out to parents each time. So we're making sure we're being honest and transparent with parents about their child's ability or inability to read. And so we've done that at the beginning of the year. We just completed that at the middle of the year. Of course, we've seen good progress, and we'll do that again at the end of the year. And at that point, that will be those scores that will determine a child's ability to promote. So right now, I can't tell you, it's X amount or Y amount. I can just tell you that it's been tracked over the course of the year. Parents have been notified, and teachers have been getting the results and have been able to intervene and or provide tutoring in the appropriate way.
And being it being April 2nd, probably the heads up right now, if you are the parent of a third grader, double check. Now's the time you want to make up ground. You don't want to wait until the last week of school to find out, at that point it's too late.
Yeah, for sure. And we've communicated throughout this entire year to anyone who listen, Brian, that if you have a child in the third grade, you need to make sure you're communicating and checking in with the school. And if you are a school servicing third grade kids, you need to make sure you're communicating out to families. And so it's a really big milestone that we hit this year in terms of our overall reading strategy in the state, which I think is the right strategy. It's proving to be. But everyone just needs to be aware of what's coming this spring.
We're talking with our superintendent of education, Dr. Cade Brumley. We will, of course, keep an eye on this as we move closer to the final day of school, for sure. In the meanwhile, we got a couple of other topics to talk about right now. We are less than 2 weeks away from the closing of applications on the Gator Scholarship Program. What kind of response have we seen so far?
Yeah, so Governor Landry's signature education priority was ESAs, or educational savings accounts, scholarship accounts. The legislators passed the Louisiana Gator program last session. It became Act 1 of 2024. We opened applications for families on March the 1st, It closes on April 15th, and right now we're just south of 30,000 applications. So we have 29,000 applications for families that would like to have their child participate in the Gator program, which means they control their education dollars. They direct them to the school and/or service provider of their choice. And so Governor Landry, in his executive budget, had requested $93 million for this program, which in the opening rollout would serve about 11,000 kids. So with the executive budget, the request was to serve about 11,000. Right now, we've got about 29,000 applications, and that closes on April 15th. If a family out there would like to apply, the website for that is lagator.la.gov. lagator.la.gov. We're taking applications through April 15th.
28,000 applications thus far. How many you said would be approved?
Well, the governor's executive budget funds 11,000 in the opening year, so we're almost 3 times that number that have applied so far. And the cities, like the top 5 cities where we're getting applications so far, New Orleans was number 1, Baton Rouge number 2, Metairie 3, Shreveport 4, and then coming in that 5 spot is Slidell. They're on the North Shore, so that was a bit of an odd one there in the top 5. But families across the state of Louisiana want school choice, Brian.
No, I completely understand. And as someone who grew up in West St. Tammany Parish, if I get the chance to chuckle at East St. Tammany, I'm going to. We're talking with Dr. Cade Brumley, our state superintendent of education. What happens there? I mean, is this you basically have a mandate now to go back in front of the legislature and say, grow this program?
Well, look, the governor, this was his signature program.
Yeah.
And the Department of Education, through the statute, is charged with administration of this program. So our next steps are we have our contract with our vendor that's helping support this program. We can't do this program without vendor support. No state in the country is doing it without vendor support because we did not want to grow the Louisiana Department of Education. We did not want to hire a ton of additional employees and have benefits and retirement costs. So we're letting the private market support this. So legislators are being asked to approve the amendment to that so that we can have that support. And then we move into the legislative session where the legislative leadership and legislators will work with the governor to determine, what amount of funding is appropriate for this program in year 1. And we are anticipating, as we're charged to do, launching the program for this upcoming school year.
Unbelievable. So we basically have to wait until we get more, though. I mean, your success can't be measured off of the number that are interested in it. Success is going to be measured off the number that actually succeed from it.
Well, yeah, and look, I've been really pleased with my agency's work so far on this. We have been able to have a really smooth launch. We've had our non-public schools have been able to register for the program to be service providers. Families, we've surveyed families so far that have applied. We have a 93% satisfaction rate with the process we've put in place so far. So we've done a really smooth job so far, bragging on my team. But we've got to get to the point of knowing what is the appropriation for the program, and then we really need to have a smooth launch come this August.
We got just a couple of minutes left with Dr. Cade Brumley, our state superintendent of education. I want to pivot one more time, Dr. Brumley, and talk internships if we could. The Leaders for a Better Louisiana put out a recent study or shared a recent study that showed fewer Louisiana high school students complete internships than their surrounding states. I know with so much emphasis on just, making sure the kids know how to read and making sure that, we're improving math grades as well. Where are we on the internship front when it comes to the high schoolers and college for that matter?
We're not where we need to be. But Brian, I have had this conversation with you for almost 5 years and really was unable to get traction with the last administration and last state board to try to really incentivize internships for students in high school. That all changed with Governor Landry coming in. He believed in it. The legislators now believe in it. Our State Board of Education, Bessie, they now believe in it. And so we were able to refresh our state's accountability system so that we have an expectation that students that are going on that career path during their high school years, they participate in some type of internship activity. Because as I travel the state and I talk to business and industry leaders, or I talk to Rotary or Lions Club or Chambers of Commerce, they'll always say the same thing. One, we need people that aren't going to college to come out with a credential from high school, to come out understanding the soft skills, and they need some level of OJT, on the job training, before they get here. And we have not been responsive to that as a state for a very long time, because we've diminished the trades crafts and career education, and we've told everybody, and it's been a mistake, you've got to go to college, you've got to go to college. And so we're trying to lift the trades crafts and vocational education. We're trying to make sure that while students are in high school, they understand what it's like to go to a work environment and see that and experience that. And I'm thankful for our state board, because they put into our revised accountability system an expectation that schools and school systems across the state put an emphasis on this, because we're trailing our peers. We're trailing our peers in other states that have their students engaged in work-based learning opportunities in high school, and we have not done it. And we have a real opportunity now to do that, and I think we'll start seeing those numbers uptick.
And we got less than 30 seconds to go, so I hate to squeeze in one more question, but is the onus on your end for not pushing it enough, or is it on the business community end for not showing what's available enough?
Well, I think it can go around. You can blame a lot of different places, but we're just trying to look forward. So we've got all of our business community, both organized and then individual businesses. We've got school systems. We've got policy leaders consistently coming together right now to have the conversation of how can we make this work. And Brian, I'll tell you, I think that over the next couple of years, we will see a dramatic increase in students that are coming out of high school workforce ready.
And that is where we got to call it for today. Dr. Cade Brumley, we always appreciate the time.
Thanks for having me, my friend.